Given both parties have a history of promising big but not delivering on those promises, why should we believe that you intend to honour the promises? And if so, how will you fund them? And should you fail to deliver on those promises, will you commit to resign for misleading the public?
Let's go to the Premier first.
Look, I'm happy to have a go at that one. Look, firstly, just let me start with where you finished. In terms of the commitments that we've made in our budget in terms of infrastructure, those projects are funded and they will be delivered. There's always some timing issues around the margins on projects. But in terms of the numbers that you've used, in fact, not that I'd cast aspersions on the ABC, but we've been keeping a pretty close track on it ourselves. And at the moment, the Liberal Party has committed around $1.6 billion, 800 of recurrent and around 800 of capital. The 800 of recurrent across the forward estimates on the basis that our economy is now in much better shape than what it was when we first set the budget even back in November. We're now throwing surpluses in the final year well in excess of $200 million based on the pre-election financial outlook. And so the budget can meet the recurrent spending. In terms of capital, those capital projects will slot into our program moving forward over the next 4 years. Now, some of the commitments that have been made have been over a 10-year period, pushing out things like ports and other significant investments. The Launceston General Hospital, for example, has a 10-year plan, of which there's around $100 million that's spent over the next 4 years, and the remainder comes in at a later date. But the point I would make is that, based on the analysis that we've done, currently Labor is at around $2.7 billion. In fact, promises well in excess of $3 billion overall.
That's not much.
I've made the point on a number of occasions that I think that they are treating the budget like a magic pudding.
Okay, let's hear from the Opposition Leader. Thanks.
Thank you. In the first instance, if I could respond, Kerry, we won't be raising any taxes except for a new foreign investor tax for purchases of residential properties in Tasmania. We will not be selling any assets, and we will not be making any cuts to services. So I want to make that very clear for people. In respect of how we'll pay for our promises, we've released our fiscal statement, which has gone to Treasury, and what the Premier said about his assessment of our costings is incorrect. Currently, we've made about $1.3 billion in promises for recurrent expenditure, and about $1.1 billion in promises for infrastructure. That is affordable, given the budget situation currently. The cost to borrow is very low, with interest rates being as they are, but it's also necessary to make sure that we continue to stimulate our economy, to provide opportunities for employment for people, and to repair the neglect over the last 7 years of the Liberal government's underinvestment in essential services, particularly health and especially affordable housing. The budget can afford to sustain the levels of spending that we're promoting. Independent economist Saul Eslake has said as such himself when he was asked to comment on the policies of the parties. So I'm confident that we can deliver. And to your point, should the leaders resign if they fail to deliver, this man should resign today. Because the reason that the budget even has additional funding is because they have failed to deliver on their infrastructure projects. It's because they haven't built the projects that they promised Tasmanians, and they're actually reheating them and re-announcing them this election.
Unfortunately, look, this fantasy's been going on for too long. In terms of the budget, the reason that we have additional revenue and headroom in our operating statement at the moment is because the economy is much stronger than what was first predicted. In fact, state revenues will be up more than $400 million over the forward estimates. GST is up around $600 million over the forward estimates because of the stronger national growth as well. Now, in terms of Ms White's commitments, $1.3 billion worth of recurrent spending, noting that I'd put ours at 800, will push the budget back into deficit almost immediately based on the numbers that were in the pre-election financial outlook.
More. But you said you had.
But if I could just make the point, look, I'm sorry, you said $1.3 billion in recurrent, 1.1 in capital. Now, if I could just make the point, we won't be cutting services, we won't be increasing taxes, and we will not be selling assets.
Treasury papers show that every year this government fails to deliver infrastructure projects of about 25%. So 25% is not going out the door, which means that that is a handbrake on economic growth, a handbrake on job creation. It actually means that you miss out on the things that this government promised they were going to build for you.